Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Fern Chronicles podcast. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a breakdown on the upcoming event, UFC 257. Mainly just going to be going over the main and co-main events. So just a little bit of background here. I have practiced a little bit of martial arts. Nothing too crazy. I'm just a big fan. And this is going to be the first time I've talked about it. So thanks for listening, and here we go. All right, thanks so much for listening in. This is a little bit of a different one for me. Just wanted to really discuss this because I'm super excited about this upcoming event. So UFC 257, the co-main, so we have Michael Chandler. This is his very first bout in the UFC. He's coming over most recently from Bellator, where he is was now the champion at 155, so that's lightweight in the UFC. Really interesting fight. So he's taking on Dan Hooker, who is this, equally impressive specimen who has been in the UFC, kind of clawing his way up at this point. A little bit of background on Hooker. So he is he just recently, had a bout with Dustin Poirier that went the distance, and it was great. Dustin ended up winning, which is why he's in the main event this go around with Connor. But basically what it comes down to is he's a long fighter. He's big, in my opinion. He appears to be a lot bigger than Chandler. And they seem to kind of match up well, right? So in the UFC, or in MMA, we are brought to you by PremiumJane.com. Please use the promo code FERN, F-E-R-N, for 20% off at checkout. It's a great company. They make products for humans and for dogs, so check them out. More info in the description. A mixed martial arts, which is the sport. There's this idea that styles make fights. So with MMA, you can use a bunch of different martial arts backgrounds as kind of a jumping point. So boxing or jiu-jitsu, which is a ground game, kickboxing, taekwondo, basically any background goes, as long as what you're doing falls within the rules of the sport. So Chandler has a big emphasis on wrestling and kind of ground game, although his striking is very good, whereas Hooker is more so a stand-up artist. He has a really good Muay Thai aspect to his game, which is a lot of elbows, knees, punching, and he's longer, right? So he's a lot taller than Chandler, which could make it difficult for Chandler to close the distance, meaning get inside of the punching range to take him down, where you'd shoot, meaning go to kind of attack the legs, kind of bear hug the legs, take the person down. That does leave a little bit of an issue for Chandler. My guess is that Hooker is going to take this one because Hooker is longer. He has a longer reach, longer kicks, and he's really good at his what they call takedown defense, right? So that's his ability to stay up and keep the fight on the feet instead of going to a ground game where it's more wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kind of ground and pound kind of stuff. And this is a bit of an issue for Chandler because, as I said, he has a more of an emphasis on doing takedowns, bringing the fight to the ground. Could be a little bit of a challenge for him. I just don't really see him taking down such a high-level UFC competitor in Dan Hooker. And UFC is pretty much regarded as the pinnacle for the sport. That's the organization that has the best fighters. So if you're the champion in Bellator, which is another organization, or ONE FC, you're a champion, but typically you're not regarded by fans as the world champion. The world champion typically is in the UFC still. So that's the biggest and most powerful company that typically pays, in a lot of cases pays the most, and has the best fighters. And that's generally, if somebody wants to be the best, they'll aspire to be in the UFC. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out, but as I said, my money is in fact on Hooker for the co-main. I think that's going to be a really, really good option. Moving on to the main event. So this is the one that I'm, of course, most excited for. Conor McGregor, who is basically the biggest the biggest name that the sport has ever seen, the biggest star. He brings with him a lot of eyes, a lot of money for the company, for himself, and for the person he has his bout against, just because he is so popular. And then you have Dustin Poirier, who has been in the game for a long time, and is a really gritty technical fighter as well, that is famous for getting in these wars where they just go back and forth, and ends up just having his sheer willpower in most cases lead him to victory. Now this is the second time they fought, so this is McGregor Poirier 2. Now basically what this means is we have a little bit of an idea on how it might go based on that first interaction. So we have in the first bout, basically, so it was at featherweight, which is a lot lighter, so that's 145 pounds rather than the lightweight 155 where they're meeting this go around. Conor McGregor talked massive crap to Poirier, and it really got in his head. You can see in all the interviews, oh man, I've never hated somebody this much before a fight ever. Really big deal. And he came charging forward, and Conor hit him with that dynamite that he has in his left hand, and basically knocked him out inside, I think it was 90 seconds. So really impressive. And that was on Conor's way up to the title, where he defeated the featherweight champion, went on to defeat the lightweight champion as well. So he was the champ or the double champ, the first person in UFC history to simultaneously hold two belts. So that was super impressive, and he was on fire. Yeah, there was a lot at stake there, and Poirier kind of crumbled. But now Poirier has gone on to be, and I think technically he's rated the number two contender underneath, I believe, Gaethje, under the champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. I believe that's the current standing, although I and many others rank him number one. It's one of those things. It's not hard science. It's just a lot of it is kind of preference and subjective there. So I do rate him number one still, and that has a really big impact on how this all works out in my head. So pretty impressive guy, to say the least. And on top of that, Poirier has been just on a tear. So he beat, he stopped, he knocked out Gaethje, who was a really, really powerful, intimidating fighter, and did pretty well against Khabib himself, but he ended up weathering a storm against Justin Gaethje, who's very explosive and just really kind of a violent dude with how he fights. It's just very aggressive, very forward motion, and he knocked him out, and he was crowned interim champion as well. Poirier was. While we were waiting on Khabib to come back. So he was named interim champion when he defeated Max Holloway, who is at the time was the featherweight champion, who I regard as the greatest featherweight of all time, and is just coming off of a really, really great victory against Calvin Kattar, and I hope he gets a title shot again soon, because he totally deserves it. But he beat Max Holloway at 155 for that belt, the interim belt, which was a really big deal at the time. So yeah, Dustin Poirier has a really good credentials. His boxing, he's known for his boxing now. He was before, but his boxing level has just increased tremendously. His technical ability, his offense and defense, just very, very well rounded. On his feet and on the ground. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he stands a much, much better chance this go around against Conor. So we'll see how that goes. Really excited for it though. And as far as Conor McGregor goes, as you all know, it's been really hard to be a Conor McGregor fan these last couple of years, because he's just been caught in lawsuit after lawsuit. He mocked the current champions, his wife, his religion, his country, I guess to get inside of his head, but a lot of it was just, it seemed like pure hatred, and it was just really kind of over the top aggressive. He's also been in a bunch of different scandals, where he's been thrown in jail or at least arrested for a bunch of different things. I'll let you research them on your own time. But yeah, it was really like, oh man, he seems like he made it to the top and then fell off of the cliff right as he seemed to have it all. But he seems to have centered himself. He appears to be in the best shape of his career. Basically, he's doing really well. His comeback fight against Donald Cerrone was tremendous. So Conor, he lost basically. His last fight that he lost was against Khabib. It was a title fight. That was a comeback fight as well. And that was when he kind of hit that low point. And a little while later, he came back against Donald Cerrone, who leads the company in wins and head kick knockouts. Donald Cerrone is a fantastic fighter, and Conor McGregor just ran through him. First round knockout. He hit him with his shoulder, which was crazy, and broke his nose. He literally shouldered him in his nose and broke it. Head kicked him, dropped him, and then finished with I believe it was a TKO technically against Cowboy Cerrone, which is if you're a fan, even a casual fan of the sport, you'll know that that's really, really impressive, because Cowboy's great. And they met at 170, which is welterweight, so interesting there. And Conor McGregor has really only had just a few fights at I guess just 2 fights at 155. So that would be the Eddie Alvarez fight, where he very easily won the belt, and then the Khabib fight, where he unfortunately did lose in the 4th round. He got tapped out with a neck crank, kind of a rear naked choke / neck crank. And that was his only experience there. But he, in my opinion, rather, he appears to be a lot better in 155. That seems to be where his body sits naturally. You can tell at 170 he's not super defined. You can tell that he could cut a little harder. And at 145 at featherweight, he's so emaciated whenever you see him on the stage during weigh-ins. You can tell he's just totally depleted. His cardio can't be that great when you're just doing that to your body and just so dehydrated. 155 seems to be his ideal weight. I did see the ceremonial and the official weigh-ins, and even when he's getting on the stage for the official weigh-in, he looks good. So you can tell this is the sweet spot where he's light but still powerful, still has all the endurance and everything. And same for Poirier. Poirier looks great. He's put on a lot of muscle mass, particularly in his core. He's got a kind of a thick back and body. Both of the fighters here on the main card are absolutely ripped, and it's going to be a banger. I can't wait. My thoughts are basically Conor's either going to get the victory in the 1st or 2nd round, or Poirier is going to be able to kind of weather that storm and kind of turn it into the war that he's wanting, and has a very good chance of winning it in the 4th or 5th. So it should be a 5-rounder, because it's a main event, and it's going to be just fantastic. I cannot wait. And the cool thing about it, though, is that Conor McGregor has begun to calm down, basically. He still has a great intensity about him, but he doesn't seem as mean or kind of as a bully, because he's basically at the top in terms of finances and the worth that he's created for himself. But he's been co-promoting with Dustin, nothing but smiles. That they give each other hugs before and after. There's been no trash talking for the main or the co-main. It's been really cool. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. There have been implications that Dana White, who is the president of the UFC, Dana White has basically gone as far as to say, if Khabib sees something crazy at this event at 257, then there's a really good chance that Khabib will come back to try to claim that 30-0 ending title run, undefeated, 30 wins, 0 losses, and we're hoping that that's going to be a victory that Conor McGregor has, just because the story for the rematch is going to be tremendous there. So in a way, a lot is riding on this, not only because it's a great fight, but because it's going to be like I said, there's a really good chance that the winner of either of these two events is going to have a title shot against Khabib. So it's going to be there's just so much riding on it, and that extra pressure is going to be really cool to see how the different athletes are going to react to it, because there's just so much on the line. So we'll see how it goes. It's just been really cool to see everybody being friendly, but being ready to throw down. So we'll see how it goes. And that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of basic breakdown, and there's plenty more to come. Again, thanks so much for listening today. I really appreciate your support. I upload everywhere you might listen to a podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.